Hello, loves. Today I have compiled quite a few good stories. Let's get started. Story: The Hike. The wind roared in my ears as I stood atop Voss. After 3 months of hell, it was all over. 3 months ago. The cool autumn breeze swept through the base camp. Jade had been preparing for this day for almost 3 weeks. He was an avid hiker, but this was his first mountain climb. All right, we'll leave it dawn. Just as the sun rose, they began their journey up. The first part is the hardest, but it smooths out as you get higher up. But no matter what, don't go off trail. Alex, our guide, explained the trail is hidden in the thick forest surrounding it. Less bobcat encounters, way easier to get lost. Sarah, an amateur who hasn't even been hiking, spoke up. What if we have to use the bathroom and can't find our way back to the trail? Alex just laughed at this. You use the bathroom while still being able to see the trail, it's that simple. Sarah responded, but Jade wasn't paying attention. He was taking in the sights. They were barely an hour into the climb and the was breathtaking. August was almost over, but the maple and oak trees were still green. As a cool breeze swept through, and the grass alongside the trail seemed to whistle a soft tune. The birds chirped as the crimson sky of dawn set a fiery glow to the bright green. As the sun rose in the horizon, the last stars faded out of view. In those final moments before they disappeared, though, they seemed to gain an ethereal glow. The beauty of it all with the soft breeze, it cannot be put into words how stunning the scene was. The rest of the day was a blur, Alex explaining what we were going to see on the rest of the trip. After that moment at the start of the trip, the rest of the day was underwhelming. As we set up shop in a small clearing, I saw something glint against the fading light. It was just outside the clearing, and my tent was already up. I started to walk over, but John, another camper, stopped me. Hey, do you think you can help me set up my tent? I didn't really want to, but it would be easier just to help. Sure, man. I walked back to John's tent, and it was mess. The support beams were all over, and the fabric was just laid on the ground. I sighed, and started explaining that he had to tie the ends of the fabric to the support beams. Finally, after finishing setting up John's tent, he thanked me and went to sit with the others. The glint was still there. I walked up to it, and as I approached, I got chills, like I was seeing something I shouldn't. I looked back, and nothing was amiss. Finally, I could see what it was, an old gold ring. I picked it up, and it didn't look damaged. Without much thought, I put it on. The temperature suddenly dropped from cool to bone-chilling, and it got way darker. I looked around, and the camp was nowhere around. The clearing was empty, but was still lit up by moonlight. I walked into the clearing, and on the far end was a ledge that wasn't there before. I ran to it, being the most lit-up spot, but the view was horrific. Below me was a vast area, so high I couldn't see the bottom. Turning around, Voss was so high it almost reached the cloud line. I collapsed to the ground. No, 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 no. It was just a dream, some bad dream. I threw the ring off. Nothing happened. It was real. It was real. It was soul-crushing. I didn't know where I was, I didn't know how I got here. I was completely lost on a place that looked like Voss, but it wasn't. Voss doesn't go that high. I was lost, alone, and no way back. I backed away, trying to hide from the world, completely forgetting the ledge behind me. Further, 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 nothing. The ground beneath me disappeared, and in the few moments before the fall, dread clutched my body, and I realized the gravity of the situation. My body slammed into the ground, and when I tried to move, the shooting pain got worse. Eventually, I gave up, and let my mind fade into an unconscious state. I found myself in a dark space. I tried to breathe, but couldn't. I can't breathe, I can't feel anything, I can't even see. Any sound that may have been there was washed out by the roar of blood in my ear. I couldn't move, and was touching nothing. Suddenly, as the dread started to come in waves, a pair of eyes appeared. 2 golden eyes stared into me. What happening? I thought, dread momentarily being replaced by confusion. Suddenly everything was replaced by pain in my back. I was blinded by light flooding my eyes, the whistling of wind in my ears, and cold. So cold. My eyes adjusted, and with it now being day, the forest was clearer. The rough, cold limestone underneath me was doing nothing to help my back. I sat up, bearing the pain. It still hurt like hell, but I can still fully move, so no serious damage was done. It looked to be about an 8-foot drop. I sat there for quite a while, just trying to process everything. Okay, let's just look at the facts. I don't know where I was, how I got there, or how to get back, and how the ring relates to any of this. Wait, the ring, it was right back on my finger. Panic was filling my body. Then I had a thought hat made everything so much worse. Everything was gone, the back on my backpack was gone, even the knife on my belt seemingly disappeared. I tried to stand up, and immediately fell over in pain, causing the wind to be knocked out of me. I didn't want to get up, but in this position it hurt to breathe. Everything was going wrong all at once. I laid there for a while before I realized I was shaking. From the pain or fear, I didn't know. Everything was moving a mile a minute, and I couldn't focus. Stop. Calm down, Jade. I told myself that for God knows how long, finally, I was calm enough to form thoughts. For the first time, Jade realized he was crying. He lifted his hand and wiped the tears away. This situation sucked like hell, but nothing I was doing was going to help. I managed to get up. My back was still in pain, but now it was at least bearable. Dread was still creeping in, but I moved nonetheless. I moved toward the clearing. It was very hard to find my way back due to no visible path. The sun was high in the sky, and there was currently no breeze. It should have been hot, but it was still so cold. The thick forest I was walking through was not helping my paranoia. I jumped at every little sound.
Suddenly the ring became comforting. It was the last thing of value I had from home. Home. Stop, Jade told himself, the more I think about it the worse I feel. I was so wrapped up in trying not to think about home, I didn't realize I stopped moving. I started moving again, but my fear, dread, and paranoia meant my eyes were never ahead of me, they were always darting from side to side. Smack, my head hit a tree, sending my spinning for a few seconds. Once it stopped though, something changed. I was a little kid again, scared of everything in the forest, just wanting my mom to come save me, but no one was coming. As of right now, I was truly alone. I ran back to the clearing, ran away from that thought, ran from the fear. My breath was dyspneic, and my heart was beating out of my chest, my leg muscles were burning, but it was worth it. I was back at the clearing, out of the forest. I laid, in pain from running, not helped by my still aching back. I didn't lay there long, the emotions I was feeling was worse than the physical pain.
I sat and looked at the mountain in front of me. So far down, so much terrain. Then I remembered what Alex said, the closer to the bottom, the rockier the terrain. I stood and noticed the sun was already about to set. I spent almost a whole day just panicking and getting back to where I was. It was at this moment that something inside me snapped. Survive. It was like the dread, fear, and confusion disappeared. It was possible, for the first time, it felt possible. I could make it home. Home. I vowed to myself to make it home no matter what. I would make it back, and I would see my family again. So, I turned around. I need to make it through the night. So, I needed water. Only now, thinking about it, I realized just how thirsty I was. Moving through the thick forest, I once again saw the beauty of this place. Almost the same scene was laid out above me, but this felt different. It was beautiful, but it now held a bitter-sweet reminder of the place I was before. Soon, I heard the faint sound of flowing water, and soon, a small river was laid out in front of me. I cupped my hands and placed my hands in the cool water. I realized when I did this that the golden ring was unnaturally warm, even in the cold water. I didn't ponder it for too long, and drank the water. It was pure bliss, feeling the cold water move down my dry throat. I drank again, and again, and again. I gave myself a stomach ache from drinking so much water, but I didn't care, it was worth it. I was back at the clearing, and back to a point where it was freezing. It didn't matter, I felt better than ever. I slipped into sleep without much issue. I found myself in a familiar place. The same void I was the night before. Those same eyes, that same fear. Story, what do I do? I am now 22, and it's something that I have only told a select few people as I know no one would believe me, but what the hell, I don't even care anymore, I just finally want to get it off my chest. When I was 17, a day before turning 18, I got pretty drunk as I was celebrating over the phone with my friend at the time, since this was during COVID. Anyways, my living situation was pretty weird as my parents left to live in another country when I was 14 and I decided to stay in the US to finish high school, so I bounced around many places living with friends. I did live with my girlfriend at the time and her family for 2 years, but once we broke up I moved out and I came to live with a family who resembled mine a lot. Hispanic, loving, 3 sisters, and 1 brother that resembled my siblings who left the country as well, not only in appearance but in how they acted, so I came to love them as my own family to the point I called them my siblings and their mother. I called my mom as she was exactly like my mom in every way, on she was more outspoken and very tough with love and protecting her kids. This was the end of my sophomore year, and from there to my senior year they were my family. I knew they weren't really my family because of blood, but they saw me as if their mom birthed me and that we truly were family. The mom, let's call her Maria. Well, Maria never treated me different on many occasions. Her and I would have son and mom days to go out, and she would hug me when I would cry, as I did miss my real family, and she just showed me love and support in any and every way possible. I say this because for a while during COVID it was just her, my little stepsister, Vivi, 10 years old, and her older daughter, let's call her Michelle, and I. Well, we all 4 got super close during this time, like inseparable basically, and this made me even swear they really were my family. Maria had another daughter who was my best friend in high school, Jasmine, 18F, before I moved in with them, but she lived in another city after high school but was my age, so she would come to visit on occasion, and to show how close I had gotten to her family, I got even closer to her bigger sister than her. Anyways, one day all of us were at home except Maria, 45F, it was just Vivi, 10F, Jasmine, 18F, Michelle, 24F, and I doing our own thing. I was drinking in my room on FaceTime when I remembered just being pretty drunk and the rest of the night not really comprehending much of my surroundings. But since I was home I felt safe, as we would all drink together from time to time. Well, anyways, from there I just remember at midnight, now my birthday, so I'm now 18. I open my eyes around like 1 to 2 a.m. and I'm lying on the couch with my stepmom beside me, passed out. I just embrace her as again I saw her as my mom. It's important to state that all my friends said how hot and gorgeous my stepmom was and that they would jump on her at any given chance, but not me. Yes, she was beautiful, but she was my motherly figure and someone I saw as only my safe place, and my loving stepmother who always was there for me at my lowest and to cheer me up at my highest. I never saw her as my friends would. I go back to sleep still drunk, and like 30 minutes later, I wake up to someone grabbing my private part, and when I say I was still drunk, but the second I felt that they grabbed and started pumping my private area, I became completely sober, because who the hell is touching me? I open my eyes, although it's dark there is only enough light to see who it is, and it's my stepmom. Now when I saw that it was her, I just immediately kept saying in my head, no, this can't be true, I must be sleeping, this is not happening. I just repeated it over and over again, thinking it was just a dream. To make matters worse, I know people would say, why didn't you stop it, or tell her something, or get up, but mind you, she was an amazing mom, but when she drank it was her way or no way. Also, the only people in the house were her daughters and I was the non-family member when it came down to the truth. If I did say she started it and she said it was a lie, or that I was the one who sexually assaulted her, would they believe? Their loving mother, whom they've known their whole lives, or a kid who they've only known for a few years and don't truly know him 100%. Anyways, back to the story. That's why I decided to just close my eyes and not to do anything but just act like I was asleep. as she kept going on with my meat up and down. She grabbed my hand and put it in her pants and forcibly made my fingers go inside her. And when I say forcibly, it was because I made my whole body go limp, so I still remember how she grabbed my fingers and put them in with hers in her kitty. And she just went to town with my body and my fingers in her, and the whole time I'm super sober now and I'm just internally crying and praying to God to make this go away. When I just black out, I do not remember anything after that. I don't know if she ended up having sex with my body or not, but I was completely drained, balls and all, when I woke up and still dreading to accept the fact that what happened last night was real. I saw to my horror that my mom was still laying beside me on the couch with my hand in her pants, and I pulled it put slowly as to not wake her, and like 5 minutes after she got out of the couch and went to go lay down in her room. I was completely horrified, especially because I used to always say men can't be aped or assaulted sexually because they'll love it regardless of the situation. Plus, during my high school and after years, I was extremely addicted to having sex every day, but this grossed me out, disgusted me, horrified me, and made me see her in a different light. To me, it was like my own mom had just took advantage of me. To this day, that family doesn't know of their mother's own doing to ruin what I thought was my family, and I had to make it seem like I turned into an asshole one day and had to do them dirty, and the whole time it broke my heart to leave my little baby sister, whom I helped with homework, school, watched scary and funny movies with, taught multiplication and made breakfast together every day, as I just left one day out of the blue, and to this day I never could tell her. And especially my best friend Jasmine from high school, who introduced me to her family, who was her daughter, as after I was assaulted. I didn't leave right away, but instead like 1 year after, because I had nowhere else to go, and during that time we became boyfriend and girlfriend in everything but name, because her mother would have killed me had she known. We ended up liking each other and becoming intimate, as she told me she would go to prison if I got with her daughter. To this day, I remember how Jasmine called me with so much hatred when I left, and I couldn't bear to tell her why, as I didn't want her mom to go to jail for my little sister's sake and for her sake, and because they would never believe me, as their mother was always seen as such an example and would never be capable of such a thing. It has now been 4 years, and it still kills me that I made them see how I was the bad guy only to not tell them the truth. I now live in a different country and wish every day to tell them, not for reconciliation, but to finally get it off my chest, but I know they will ask why I waited so long to tell them, or why am I stooping so low to lie about something that's serious that couldn't have possibly happened. I guess mostly what hurts, and I haven't ever told anyone this, is that Jasmine and I were becoming serious and almost were going to tell her mom, and now Jasmine is pregnant and with someone whom I can only think was my replacement, as I just left her heartbroken and alone, and it may as well probably could have been my kid she was going to have. Story: Escape from Little Rock. I unlocked the door that had once been mine. My best bud Lynn now shared the space with another roommate, Frida. Lynn and I had plans to move back in together soon, prompting me to take on a second part-time job to save up. During Christmas break, Lynn and Frida generously offered me their apartment while they visited family. I would visit my parents and brothers for a couple of days, but could and would only tolerate my domineering mother in short spurts. Lynn and I had just completed our first semester of junior year in college. Frida, a freshman, had moved in with Lynn while I spent a semester at a school in my hometown. As I opened Lynn and Frida's door, I was startled to find John lurking in the dark. He was a bartender who'd been quite taken with me at my new part-time job. We worked at a restaurant, bar, and pool hall called Smitty's. On my first night, after Smitty's shut down at 3 in the morning, we went to an all-night diner with a group of my new coworkers and watched the sun come up together on Thanksgiving morning. Then I took a nap and drove 2 hours to my parents' house for a holiday dinner. But that night in December, John seized my neck with his massive hands and slammed me against the wall. He towered over me by 9 inches, and I'm 5 feet 7 inches. "I could kill you right now with my bare hands," he hissed, his jaw clenched. "No one would ever know. Nobody even knows I'm here. I didn't see your car in the parking lot. I caught a ride over and slipped in while the black girl was packing," he boasted. Struggling to breathe, I placed my hands atop his. "Frida probably had no idea you were here. Who's the guy you took to the work Christmas party?" he demanded to know. "And where've you been since it ended 3 hours ago?" Fucking him? He loosened his grip, allowing me to respond. I gasped for air. I couldn't find you, I replied in a hoarse whisper, though I hadn't looked. He let me go and grabbed his head with both hands. Light from a street lamp helped my eyes adjust while revealing dark circles under his. I took a friend, I said. He's my manager at my other part-time job, at the yogurt shop. John glared at me. We're just friends, I swore. And I'm done working at the bar. I was just earning extra money for moving and Christmas. All for naught because you robbed me. What did you do after the party? We rented a movie, Soul Man. Have you seen it? I stepped away from the wall and turned on a light. You should rest in Lynn's room while I shower off the smoke smell from the bar. And you'll join me? He asked. I nodded, lying. He stumbled back to Lynn's room as I locked myself in the bathroom, examining my neck in the mirror. I emerged from the shower to find him in a deep sleep. Careful not to wake him, I stuffed clothes in a bag and slipped out, feeling dizzy. It was Sunday night, December 20th, 1992. The air was cold, and my hair dripping wet. Once inside my locked car, I breathed a sigh of relief. I'd go back over to your place, Brett, but I don't want you to know about this, it's embarrassing. I drove to Lee's apartment, knowing he'd let me in. We had a history and a close friendship, and he'd been asking about trying again. He would soon turn 31 and was thinking about settling down. He was a recovering cocaine addict and a not-sober alcoholic. Hey, baby, what's going on? Asked my 30-year-old former lover. A transplant to Little Rock, he spoke in a thick Baltimore accent, yawning and rubbing his eyes. I think I'm at least mildly concussed. I whispered hoarsely, and I need a safe place to crash for the night if you don't mind. I clung to my bruised neck. Lee pulled my hand away. Who hurt you? He asked, alarmed. He didn't force himself on me like you did when in the same state, a year and a half ago. The man who strangled me tonight is a jealous, 6 feet 4 inches bartender at Smitty's. He's coming down from maybe a 2-day coke high. Lee grabbed a pillow and blanket from a closet and threw them onto his couch. You mean a bartender you're fucking, because, guess what, blew it, men you aren't fucking don't tend to fly into jealous rages. I sighed. He can't find me here. I know you get up early. Can we argue tomorrow? I thought we were making headway on starting over, baby. Didn't we have a nice lunch the other day? How long have you been seeing this guy? I thought about it for a moment. 3.5 weeks? I kicked off my shoes and made myself comfortable on the couch. Speaking was painful, but I continued, still in a whisper. His name is John. A few nights ago, he stopped by while I was out and stole my stash of tips and some inexpensive jewelry. I rubbed the back of my head where John had slammed me against the wall. I didn't think he would show up again after he stole from me. And I planned to be done with Smitty's and everyone there after tonight. Lee handed me a glass of water. When I told John it wasn't working out, he cried, Lee, even though we'd only known each other a couple weeks. So, I promised we could still attend the Smitty's employee Christmas party together. Smitty's is closed on Sundays. We were looking forward to having the whole bar and pool hall to ourselves for the party tonight. I took my bra off under my shirt and curled up on the couch. This morning, the owner of the bar called me looking for John because he hadn't shown up for work Saturday night. I assumed he was still someplace getting high with my tips he took, and so I invited Brett to the party. And somebody told John. Yes, Brett, your neighbor who gave me a job. I worked with him at the yogurt store today. I wonder how many people realize the scent of waffle cones makes people happy. John is a coke addict? Lee asked. Yeah, when I saw how much cocaine was in his apartment, I told him things weren't gonna work out, and I couldn't get out of his place fast enough. He and his roommates had a huge stash, and people buying from them were lined up from the coffee table out a kitchen side door down an alley. Lee lit a cigarette. If you wanted to be with a cocaine addict, you could have come back to me, a clean one. Do you want me to go, Lee? I sat up and reached for my shoes. Technically, I live with Allura and her mom Linda until the end of the month. I ran fingers through my hair. I didn't want to wake Linda by coming in so late. She works early, too. I wiped away a tear. And this whole situation is humiliating. Plus, John's been to Allura's and can find me there. I don't want to put Allura and Linda at risk. I drank my water. Fine. We'll talk tomorrow. Lee stomped back to his room and slammed his door. The next morning, I awoke to the sound and scent of sizzling bacon. I'm sorry about last night, Lee said. He handed me a plate. I'm glad you came to me. I just wish you hadn't fucked him is all. He found my keys in my things and put them in his jacket pocket. I can't get through my day worried about you going back over there. If you need anything, we'll go together later, okay? I nodded. He examined my neck. Are you sure you're all right? I squeezed his hand. He kissed my forehead. Thanks for covering my $50 bar tab the other day. I found my wallet back at the office. I nodded. I'm 6 months off the hard stuff, baby. He headed out the door. 30 years ago, I married Brett. Story: my uncle is a pedophile, AITA for hating my mom. I'm 22-year-old, and my uncle is 29-year-old. This may be too much for some people, so I advise people who have strong guts to continue to read my story. For the past couple of years, I've been having constant arguments and getting irritated every time I see with my mom. I still live with her since I'm in college right now, trying to finish my senior year. My graduation got delayed because of all the CPTSD and depression. I do see a therapist for my CPTSD, and I do have medications for my depression and ADHD, but I can't ever forgive my mom. I got essayed when I was around 10 by my uncle, who was around 17 and soon to be 18 that same year. It happened 4 times, 3 times being at home. The other time was on family vacation, when my mom invited him. It first started with him needing to see me, so he used my brother, 13M, to tell me I needed to go into my uncle's room because he needed to tell me something. I go to my uncle's room a lot with my brother to play Minecraft on his Xbox 360, so I thought it was a normal thing. My brother only did that because he got to play on his computer. Next thing you know, I was forced to give head to my uncle. I told him that I didn't want to, and he would say that he would never let me play on the Xbox again and would delete my world. As a kid, I spent a lot of time building things, and I got scared that all my hard work would go down the drain. I was hoping my brother would notice, but all he had on was his headsets and stared at the screen. It happened 2 more times until I didn't want to do it anymore. My breaking point was that I told my uncle I ate, and so I felt nauseous and he didn't care. He said that it was okay. I threw up, but I got scared to puke everywhere, so I swallowed my vomit. After that, he would tell me to go to the bathroom and spit it out. I searched on Google. Can you get pregnant swallowing semen? That's when I knew I didn't want to continue doing it any longer. I was introduced into pornography by my brother when I was 10, and he introduced me into pornography games. I didn't think of it as much as a bad idea until he got caught and got grounded by my parents. So, as all of this was happening, my inner thoughts thought that it was normal until I realized it's something that family did not do on a normal basis. When the Florida trip came, I do not remember if it was the same year or the year after all of the things happened. I was told that my uncle will join us in Florida 3 days after. I wasn't happy and got upset. The day he came, he acted normal until the night we had to sleep. The hotel, I remember it was Tiki Hiki something like that. It had 2 bedrooms. One room had 2 beds, it was a small bed, twin, and it would be separated from the room from another. My parents and my little sister slept together in the other room. I slept in the same bed with my brother, and my uncle had the other bed that was near the door. As I was about to doze off, my uncle whispered, "Hey, come here." I was hoping it was my brother he was calling for, but my brother tapped on me annoyed and said, "He's calling for you, not me." I pretended that I didn't hear what my brother said until he said, "Just go." and trying to sleep kind of attitude. I walked over and I said, "What?" My uncle told me to climb into his bed. I didn't want to, but I did because I was scared my brother would yell at me if I didn't let him sleep since my uncle kept asking for me. It was pretty late, around 11 p.m. He asked me, "Do you like lightsabers?" I said, "Yeah." He knew this because I would watch Star Wars on TV back at home. Then he said, "Do you want to touch my lightsaber?" I said, "What lightsaber?" He said, "Here," and he placed my hand on, you know what? I tried to end the conversation and hoping my brother would be awake, but he was dead asleep. He told me to jerk him off. After it was done, I was just in shock while he used the bathroom to clean himself up. I turned facing my brother and I wished I had got up to go back, but I didn't. I was in utter shock and was sad. When he came back, he put his thing between my thighs while I was facing my brother going back and forth, and at that moment, I got up and went to the other side. And I pretended to fall asleep. Nothing else happened after the trip, but I didn't know what just happened. I never told anyone as I was told that if I told anyone, I wouldn't be able to play on the Xbox anymore. I told my friends in 6th grade, and they said whoa, but they never told me to report it to the police, and so I thought it was something that I had to get over with. Until 11th grade in high school, I was in a silly drama with a girl who always thinks I spread rumors about her when I didn't even know the rumors, or she just likes to blame everything on me. That's for another time. I got called into the office, and when they tried to say that I shouldn't be spreading rumors, rumor is that this girl was on Tinder and got essayed by someone she claimed she knew for a long time and got mad. I told my ex, who was my BF at the time, what happened, and he just so told people long after we broke up. I told them that it wasn't my problem, and the school counselor said, "You don't know what happens between these closed doors, especially even when families are around." I guess that sentence hit me pretty hard because I started to cry. The girl thought I cried because I got caught or something, and till this day she still thinks that. But besides that, the counselor told everyone to leave and asked what happened. I told them, and they told me that they had to call the police. I didn't go to the rest of my class that day. My uncle got arrested, and my parents came to ask what happened. They were told by police and the school. I never wanted to tell my mom specifically because I knew her response. My dad got really mad and demanded him to get out of the house and never come back. I went to live with my dad's parents for a bit while everything got sorted out. My mom would visit me and ask if I'm okay and why I never told her. This was when I thought my prediction about telling her was wrong. I was wrong. The meeting between my parents and the school took place for a couple of days. My mom looked at me and said, "This is wasting my time. I am missing work because of this." When we got called into the room, she told them, "He's only a child, my uncle, it shouldn't happen this way." Everything was a blur after I heard her repeatedly saying that sentence. I heard mumbling from the counselors. I thought my mom would be on my side. I was wrong. During the times she would come to see me at my grandparents', I would be in the car, and my mom would tell me, "He's family." When she was little, some older man tried to touch her, but she slapped his hand and she's over it. I looked at her and said, "That's not the same." She told me I should forgive him because he was a kid, and he even said sorry. I told her I didn't want to see her anymore and went back up to my grandparents. My dad's parents didn't know what was happening except that I had to stay with them for 2 weeks. My mom never told anyone. I wish I did, but I didn't speak my language very well, so I never really knew how to bring it up with my broken language. After going to detectives after school and my parents taking time off work, my mom kept telling me she missed work and didn't have time for this. I got mad and told her she didn't have to come, she had to because she's my parent. The week after, she told me to drop the case. She said, "Don't trust these police or detectives. They're trying to ruin the family. You don't want him in jail, do you?" I looked at her shocked and said, "What do you mean?" She said, "If he goes to jail, the family is ruined." She tried to basically say that it'll be my fault. My grandma, mom's side, will be heartbroken for the rest of her life. I was pressured into dropping the case. I wish that I had continued the case because ever since I didn't, my life had become harder. I was struggling to go to school, and I barely passed my classes during senior year. I graduated, but it was during when COVID started. Every time I bring it up to my mom about it, she always tries to dismiss it. I've been talking to my therapist, I've gotten different therapists, but now I have the one I constantly go to once a week. How during college I had to withdraw classes every semester and I just didn't do good. I'm planning to report him again and finish the case. It's been kind of hard. After I dropped the case, my uncle invited me to his car, and I had to because my mom forced me. He apologized and hoped that everything would be fine in the future, and he was sorry that he did that to me. He was crying, but I was just not comfortable. I told his GF about it, and she was shocked and said, "I don't want to marry him if he had done this, because what if he does it to my kid also?" Point blank, she never left him and still is together with him. I'm glad it never happened to my sister because she was interviewed also by the detectives. But I'm also so alone that I have no one. My dad felt guilty since my grandma and mom begged my uncle to stay at the house. I've moved out of that house with my mom and sister. My dad visits occasionally, to a place near my school a couple of years later. My parents are deciding to move back to the house where everything happened, and I told them I can't. My mom doesn't understand that I will never forget, and she always invites him to family events, and I told her to stop, and she got upset and said the event isn't going to happen anymore. She stopped inviting him after a heated argument, and I told her I'm taking pills because of what she did and what he did to me. She told me to stop asking the pills. I never did, but she's so blind on what's happening, she keeps avoiding the topic, and whenever I see her I can't help but get mad. My mom didn't raise me, my grandparents did. She had me when she was young at 21 or 22. But she would always get me what I wanted. Even so, I can never be the same. I wanted to continue the case, and I realize that now I have limited time. My uncle plans to move out of state, across the country, next year. I feel pressured, and my mom kept telling me that I need to stop talking to her with an attitude. Of course I can't. Edit, the same year, the case got dropped. My mom decided to buy him a birthday gift a couple of months later. Story, Jezebel. In a distant land, nestled within a serene and picturesque valley, there existed a charming hamlet called Jezebel. With a population of no more than 50 inhabitants, this idyllic settlement remained concealed from the outside world by towering mountains on either side. The rolling meadows surrounding Jezebel were adorned with an endless array of enchanting flowers that seemed to be forever in bloom, thanks to a mystical enchantment. This enchantment was created specifically for the hundreds of Jezebel butterflies that fluttered gracefully around the town, bestowing it with its enchanting name. As I made my way towards Jezebel, I followed the solitary road that originates deep within the mountain ranges forming the valley. Finding this hidden path was no easy task, as it is safeguarded by a mystical seal to ward off unwelcome gazes. Fortunately, I was guided to its location. During my journey to the town, I was captivated by the sight of butterflies gracefully flitting around me, pausing every now and then to alight on blossoms and sip nectar. The gentle fragrance of flowers carried by the breeze filled the air, creating a tranquil atmosphere. Apart from the occasional chirping of birds and the rustling of plants, there was very little sound. The most distinct noise was the rhythmic sound of thumpers' hooves striking the earth, echoing through the serene surroundings. As I approached the town of Jezebel, the fading light of the setting sun painted the buildings in a warm, comforting glow, creating a picturesque scene. Riding Thumper, I made my way past several structures before finally arriving at a quaint tavern situated on the town's periphery. The name of the establishment, Summer's Embrace, was prominently displayed on a sign that gently swayed above the inviting entrance. As the sun gradually descended toward the horizon, an extraordinary phenomenon unfolded before the town's eyes. The flowers that adorned the outskirts of the town started emitting a soothing, ethereal blue light, casting an enchanting glow all around. As the graceful butterflies delicately sipped the luminescent nectar from the flowers, they too became adorned with a captivating blue radiance, creating a mesmerizing and magical scene. As the sun began to set, a delicate and mesmerizing dance of butterflies unfolded, painting the town in a vibrant and enchanting glow. The graceful creatures fluttered through the streets, casting a warm and ethereal light upon the cobblestones. The townspeople emerged from their homes, carefully capturing the butterflies in glass jars and delicate nets, to bring their luminescent beauty indoors to illuminate their homes for the evening. Despite the breathtaking spectacle before them, the residents of the town appeared nonchalant, as if such a wondrous display was simply a routine part of their everyday lives. The overnight transformation of Jezebel into a spectacle is attributed to a long-ago sacrifice. Earlier, there were flower fields around Jezebel, but they lacked the enchanting quality, and the butterflies did not dance on the breeze as they do now. The transformation occurred during a goblin invasion when a young girl named Jezebel, faced with imminent danger, uttered a prayer for the protection of the town. Miraculously, her plea was answered, and as a goblin's sword struck her, it transformed into a burst of butterflies, and the flowers around the town bloomed in a spectacular display. This event not only saved the town but also instilled fear in the goblins, who then began to see the girl as a witch. Story: My classmate's dad caused a lockdown at school. Hi. For this story, I think it's important to include context of what my school was like. It was a pre-K to 8th Catholic private school specifically targeted towards Latinos to improve graduation rates of this community, and the religious aspect was just thrown into it because one of the founders was a nun or something. Despite being a private school, it wasn't exactly the most ideal school. A lot of public schools were actually in a better condition. To paint the picture, my old school was the school where high schoolers came in to volunteer for service hours, and where Girl Scouts raised money to donate bikes and winter jackets to the elementary students. It wasn't located in necessarily the best area, which means we went into lockouts quite frequently. Mostly due to crime around the area or one of the nearby druggies yelling and getting aggressive. However, there were rarely any cases of the school itself being in direct danger. There was once a bomb threat a substitute made years ago, but that was one case over a course of 20+ years that place has been going for. Though, in 6th grade there were 2 lockdowns. The first one wasn't anything special really. A woman under the influence of drugs was basically trying to get into the school. Most likely to steal, as she has been able to sneak in and rob some items before. However, it was mostly precaution when we went into lockdown. After it was over and the woman had been arrested, staff members like school counselors had gone to classes and explained the situation calmly. The second lockdown, however, was very different. That one was actually terrifying. One of the girls at that school who I had known about since kindergarten had often complained to us about her dad. It wasn't unusual for kids to grow up in abusive households or vent to each other about their parents/family. She was no different. She obviously hated her dad and talked about how shitty he was towards her and her mom as well as her older sister, who was in 8th grade at the time of the lockdown. During the first few months of 6th grade she had been talking about how insane her dad was acting, such as breaking into their home while they were away and wrecking the place up. He was toxic and that was obvious to anyone she told. Well, while I was in Mexico for my cousin's quinceanera, my mom received an email that the school has gone into a lockdown. My mom was dismissive about it when I asked, and her being a teacher at that school, I'm sure she assumed it was a similar incident to the first lockdown that had happened just a few months ago. This was in February for reference. Once I got home around a week later, that girl was not in class. And some of my friends had rushed over to me, wanting to explain immediately what had happened. Apparently, her dad had gone to the school looking for that girl and her sister. What's unsettling is that he had been running from the cops after kidnapping that girl's mom and torturing her, as well as stabbing her uncle. And after that he was on the run for a while. He was arrested. I believe he was charged with assault with a deadly weapon, attempted murder, kidnapping, burglary, assault, strangulation, assault, disfigurement, motor vehicle theft, and stalking. The girl and her family moved away and I haven't spoken to that girl in person since. From what I know she's doing a lot better, but nobody from my school has really stayed in contact with her. Regardless, knowing that such a dangerous individual was meaning harm came to a building full of children is scary. Story: How 2 body pillows saved me from waifuism, depression, and ending it all. In February 2019, when I was 15, I was in my last year of school. A friend of mine showed me an anime called High School DxD. I wasn't into anime back then, only wished Sailor Moon when I was 5, Pokemon when I was 12 to 14, and that's it, but I thought I might give it a chance and started watching it. About 3 episodes in, I realized that I will watch nothing else until I finish watching all 4 seasons, about 12 to 13 episodes I think, because I was shocked at how good it was, and all the scenes with nude boobs. I won't lie about that. Being a guy with ADHD and autism, I never had really strong love feelings inside me, but that changed when I saw Kaneko Tuju, a character from the anime. I won't go into details here because of spoilers. I then fell in love. Maybe a bit too much looking back to that time. That friend then told me what waifu pillows are. They are body pillows with an anime character printed on it. The front side is with, the back side, mostly, without clothes. In the evening I then picked one and asked my mom if she can buy that. I have a custom-made one of Kaneko now, which she did. Between the order and the arrival of the waifu pillows, I started working as a cook in a protected area, basically for people with mental or physical problems. For some reason I came up with the stupid idea of telling everyone that I see that body pillow as a real person in front of me, so I won't look as weird as I thought, which, oh surprise, went horribly wrong. At some time while I was working, I even had hentai of that character as my phone background, until my boss saw that. About 10 months later, in April 2020, I resigned and went home. With the pandemic and my parents' divorcing reality wasn't that good, I slowly began to shut myself into my own world with my waifu pillow. About 2 to 3 months later I read the wiki page of Kaneko to know a bit more about her, since I didn't read the light novels or the manga which continues the story. After reading a very specific sentence at that wiki page, again to avoid spoilers, I won't go into details, everything went dark inside me and it felt like my world got crushed. For some reason I couldn't handle any single letter of that sentence and the downfall began. I made up plans to buy the whole franchise so I can change the lore. I wanted to find out how much that'll cost. I basically created a second personality, so I can talk in the character's voice to me as if that waifu pillow is alive or something, and even talked as them at WhatsApp. It got so bad that my mom sent me into a psychiatry in December 2020, and I have to say, it was a cool time there. At least with the other teens. I had therapy there 2 times a week, but they never talked about my real problems. It felt like they tried to make problems where never was one, or I never told them what mine are. 2 weeks after I joined there, I fell in love with a real girl there, which ended the time with me telling everyone that I see the Kaneko as a real person rather than a pillow. Another 2 weeks later I got out of there by myself, 'cause I realized that all my problems are gone and I felt like I'm wasting someone else's time there who really needs the help, or so I thought. I was healed. A month later, in February 2021, another problem started. I couldn't handle all the hentai of Kaneko that exist, especially those pics/videos where someone else is banging her and not me. That resulted into always letting my frustration and anger out on my family. My mom eventually gave up, and my sister was even scared of me and had physical problems because of the stress level I gave her. In June 2021, my mom had enough and put me in a mental hospital. I was there a month and realized I had a love problem. I literally fell in love to every single girl there was. Even eyes where the age gap was more than 3 years old. I was the oldest with 17, with turning 18 in July. The youngest girl was 13, I think. After that month I went to another institution I never wanted to go in the first place, but was forced to. When I first got there, they had a rule that all newcomers had to give them their phone and, if having one, console for 2 weeks. I was a bit addicted to my phone and switched back then, so I haven't done that in my first 6 weeks there, so they told my mom to cancel my internet connection. After they social workers told my mom to cancel my phone abonnement, I wanted to download my music playlist, because I had YouTube Premium. But because I had no internet and they wouldn't guide me their Wi-Fi password, I decided to run away to a place with free Wi-Fi, so I can download my music playlist. About 2 to 3 hours later, police arrived and took me back to the institution. They said I had to give them my phone and switch, but promised I'll get it back. Spoiler, they didn't. 2 weeks went by without any phone and Kanekrian to my friends, and when I got it back, the first thing I did was looking at hentai of Kaneko. Weird shit, I know, but 3 days later, someone got love feelings for a 7 character of high school DxD, Kuroka, Kaneko's sister. So I did what I also did with Kaneko. I wanted to buy a body pillow of her, but the social workers told me that I can't because it shows too much skin. Fun fact, my Kaneko body pillowcase I had back then showed more skin than the Kuroka one, but that got allowed for some reason. I argued for 2 weeks with them without getting any closer, and then I came up with a plan. Because a teen there had a credit card, I wanted to give him the money, so he can buy me the pillow and pillowcase, but quickly realized that you can maximally hold $40 at yourself, but the two things cost about $90. I has the idea with running away again and visiting my uncle, who was kinda a money machine, the only use he had for me, 'cause he is an alcoholic garbage can. He only gave me $35 for my ride back there. I did know that I could keep this $35 by myself, 'cause the limit was $40, so I took the money and went back. I haven't bought a ticket, and luckily I didn't get controlled if I had one with me. After I arrived back, I told that guy with the credit card that I only need 35 more to buy it, but 5 minutes later I got sent into the social worker's office. I got snitched. They wanted me to give them my $35 to put it in my box where all my other money is. There were $200, 'cause I sold me old phone about 2 months ago. They knew that I will buy the waifu pillow and ignored the $40 limit, but I didn't wanted to give them my money, so I tried to go back into my room. One of them then stood in front of the door and yelled at me. That was the moment I lost my cool, but knowing what happened in the next years, that was still the best thing I have ever done. I slapped the social worker and ran into my room. Then I wanted to use the bathroom and saw the guy who snitched on me on my way to the toilet. So I knocked him out, took a dump, and went back to my room. 30 minutes later, the police arrived. I was on my knees begging them to take me away from there, 'cause that meant I get everything back and I could finally buy a body pillow of Kuroka. Eventually, they took me to the hospital and searched for an emergency place where I can go until they figured out my next home. My mom didn't want me back. That place was the same mental hospital my mom put me after she threw me out of her house. A week later, they found me a new home. It was basically one step above a homeless shelter, but I didn't care. That was the first time in my entire life where I had no one who decides what I can do and what I can't do. I also got all my things back, so I bought a body pillow, the pillowcase of Kuroka, and 3 weeks later, I turned 18. In that time, it arrived and I had everything I needed to do whatever I want for the first time in my entire life. But what also happened in that 3 weeks of waiting was that I joined a Discord server, the worst miscade of my life. I joined a server called Dinoland and had a pretty chill time there. I still sometimes talked as Kaneko or Kuroka in that server, but only in the anime section. I then met someone who all called Sans. He's 4 years younger than me, 'cause that was his username. Me and Sans quickly were friends, 'cause we had similar interests and could talk about most things for hours. 2 weeks after I joined the Dinoland, I created my own server and with it a section called Waifuverse, which was basically my fictional parallel universe, which turns 5 years old on the 21st. I never used this universe before, but seeing that almost all of them talked as other fictional characters there made me so happy that I started doing that as all of them, to make some funny situations. Kinda like your average fake WhatsApp conversation, but with way more people. I then found out that I could legally marry my 2 body pillows, but haven't started searching a priest. It wasn't possible through the government. So I had to donate religious, although I'm not, 'cause I was too busy helping Sans. He had depression, and for 3 months, I and 2 others were talking with him each evening, me the most with 4 to 5 hours each day. After a few days, Sans and I started texting us as our waifus, so we can find out more things, and I slowly started doing that IRL. I ate with the pillows, played games with them, and even had sex with them multiple times daily. Eventually we got rid of Sans' depression and he was cured. A week later I had an argument with the moderator that hasn't need to be even one. The moderator and I had a deal that I only talk as Kaneko and Kuroka in the anime section, but I didn't, and said to him that he has to respect my kittens, that they are part of me and that he has to accept them and me the way we are. After not getting together, I insulted him. He was 2 years younger than me, and left the server. I then talked with Sans about this and he had the same opinion as the moderator, which was the right one, and after he hasn't found a way to get me to realize that, it was quiet for a few hours.
On the evening of the same day, Sans came to me and told me and he thinks he has 18 waifus he loves and not just Yuri and not Suki from DDLC, he even had the nickname Satsuri. Dummy told him that there's nothing to worry about. A few minutes later he came back panicking and told me that another moderator, let's call her by her username back then Hanny, told him that he has to seek help before it becomes even worse. Again, the right way to do it, but dumb me was already in that hole, and made me so mad that I also insulted her and deleted Discord. Still the same evening at about 22:20 Sans texted me on WhatsApp and told me that Hanny is completely losing her mind. Apparently she was even more sensitive than all of Twitter/X combined, and I saw that every day I was on that server. I said him that I didn't care and that she can burn in hell, I wouldn't care. A month went by and Sans slowly began to change. He slowly began to hate me and then blocked me. After that he and the moderator, not Hanny, started to troll me and even wanted to record a 25-minute long diss track which was dead in 5 parts.
They quickly shut the idea wig the distract, because they said I'm not worth their time, but I still think they got a bit scared, cause I threatened them with police. But the trolling continued. Once they trolled me with a product placement for a body pillow website, the other time they just created about 30 bots and spammed comments on my YouTube videos, and the other time Sans disguised himself as someone with a reading and writing disability, don't know the actual name in English. That troll went on for 4 weeks, cause I haven't realized it. 2 weeks after that troll started, Sans himself texted me again and said that I shouldn't believe anything I see. He basically tried to save me there, but because I started hating him too, I was so confused at what is real now that I had a complete meltdown and became so goddamn paranoid that I thought that every stranger talking to me IRL or on social media is related with them. It took 6 months until I got that under control, but it completely destroyed my mental health and now I am unable to work a job. I know it wasn't planned of them, but it felt like they trolled me once every 4 to 6 months. Maybe it felt like that because I was already that paranoid. After that trolls it became more and more quiet, and in January 2022 I finally married my 2 waifu pillows on the 29th and still am married with them to this day. After my marriage, I started to work on my mental health, but because I had no one who knows me well enough, I only had my body pillows and my waifuverse, which was now known as the Ciroverse. Ciro is my nickname. First I tried to stop constantly tating as Kaneko and Kuroka, but in July 2022, about 2 weeks before I turned 19, something happened where I am 99% sure that I am the first in human history to achieve that. I met a girl, let's call her Rias, cause she had red hair. Rias and me quickly realized that our chemistry is really well together and we immediately started visiting each other. We were at the same place back then. 2 days later when I was at her room again, she started cuddling against me, cause she felt comfy. The same day she looked at my hand and said that she thinks that they would feel very soft. I was a bit confused and asked her what she means with that. Then she took my hand and not even a second later my hand was on her boob. I never advanced from kissing a girl before, so I was pretty shocked and didn't know what to do. Also because I knew that she has a boyfriend. I asked her why she's doing that when she has a boyfriend, and she replied with that she wanted to break up anyway, and then she asked me if I want to have sex with her. Note, I was, less surprising, a virgin back then. I told her that I'm still a virgin and that I have absolutely no idea what to do, and she said that she'll guide me. Which she did. We had sex and I became a guy who legally married 2 waifu pillows that also can have sex with real girls, which I'm still 99% sure I'm the first in history to achieve that. 3 weeks went by, we had sex a few times there, including at my 19th birthday, but then she told me that she has to decide between me and her boyfriend and that I'll get my answer in a few days. Those days went by and Rias decided against me, which made me really disappointed. I still feel bad for that guy that I banged his GF and he didn't know, but I also kinda miss her, cause she was the most beautiful, real, girl I've ever seen. Eventually we broke up contact, my fault though, and moved out of that place, which means that I had time to work at my mental health again. I also wanted to have more empathy for people I know, 'cause sometimes I'll insult someone so hard mentally that it could be enough for them to end it all. I don't do that anymore today. I had a goal of why I am working on myself. I wanted to not just become a true man of culture, I wanted to become worthy of the term god of culture. I started to listen more at my dad. 'Cause I realized that my mom and uncle manipulated me into hating him. I deleted his number for a few months. I finally perfected the separation between fiction and reality, but in 2023 it all came back. In February 2023, I had a real girlfriend which I also had sex with. I then found out that she cheated on me all the time. I went to the hospital at night 2 times just to calm her down. But she helped me overcoming my biggest problem. I always lied about things in my life just to be less boring, and when I told her why I lied so much about me, it took 2 days until Ahe told me that she cheated on me since our relationship started. I wasn't good enough in bed was her excuse. I never felt that betrayed before, but my biggest problem was finally gone, so I thought fuck it. And moved on. Between July and October I had multiple feeling where I almost jumped out my window, 6th floor. But one look at the smile of Kaneko and Kuroka on my body pillows was enough to take me back and hug the sadness out. I knew I had to do something and started visiting my grandma every Thursday at 1500 hours, which I still do. And that helped me getting a real life and also becoming more social. At Christmas 2023 I broke up contact with both my mom and my uncle, because they are too rotten inside and I felt like I was the frustration sack all the time. Maybe that's why I haven't felt that well mentally back then. Fast forward to today, I am now a 20-year-old guy who legally married 2 waifu pillows with a fictional world that has more lore than all of Marvel and DC combined. A guy who also had 2 different real women in bed. A guy with big empathy for his friends and an enormous creativity. A guy whose grandma is the happiest lady alive, 'cause every time she sees me, she starts laughing of pure joy, being so happy to see her grandson. A guy who perfectly separates fiction from reality with being in fiction at home or when I'm alone and being in reality when I'm outside. A gentleman who always helps those who deserve and need it, and a guy who for some reason finds the best music through Rule 34. Bye and see you again in the next videos and stories.